right, we're transitioning into some glute-related exercises. I'm going to explain why we kind of do these exercises and why we start at a kind of a foundation, at a baseline. So eventually, in a second, I'm going to start with some bridges, some glute bridges, okay? But again, one thing about the glutes, you have the most superficial is the gluteus maximus, right? And that one's going to be a really big one for the hip extension, okay? And also, our glute muscles also help us to a little bit get into the posterior pelvic tilt. As we contract, it's going to want to extend the hip a little bit, okay? And again, as we alluded to earlier, that is what? That is the posterior pelvic tilt, okay? Now, it's not the only muscle group contributing to that, but it's one of the major ones that's going to really help with that hip flexion. Also hamstrings, but we'll get to that one later. We have someone in the audience.
Why do we go to a posterior pelvic tilt? What is the benefits of that?
So I'm gonna say my little gist, and I'll actually have Sean and kind of add to what I say. So the quick, dirty, and short version is pretty much what we want to do with the pelvis. We want to have a healthy pelvis, right? We want to be able to get into anterior and posterior. A lot of us, maybe depending on our anatomy, may be stuck in a lot of anterior, which gives a lot of extension, which a lot of people can complain about back pain. So if we're able to, we have the capacity to really utilize the glutes and have strong glutes, again, we can pull ourselves into more of a neutral spine and again, stabilize our pelvis so that way we're not wonky and we don't end up going into like Trans-Ellenberg gait, which we'll talk about later as well. That's my gist. My gist is being healthy, having capacity to actually get into the both motions of the pelvis, and not only just rotation, but again, the anterior, posterior pelvic tilt. Again, we want to have the balance. Now, Sean's going to come in and kind of add to that and kind of patch those holes that I just missed.
Okay.
USC, baby.
USC. Okay, so again, we're talking about that posterior pelvic tilt and correcting that what's called lordosis, right? So we have this natural lordotic curve right here in our lumbar, okay? And then we have our kyphotic curve up here at the top. So sometimes this can get accentuated. Not only that, but when we go into, we load ourselves, okay? So we go and we pick up heavy things, or maybe we're just a heavier person, okay? That curve, that natural curve, can start pinching on certain parts of our vertebral discs. Okay, that can lead to bulging discs or degenerative discs. So what we're trying to do is we're putting our lumbar into a more neutral position. So the load bearing that's now on that disc is more evenly distributed, and we're not just pinching one area or the other. So really good habit, even for someone who's just trying to walk throughout the day and their back hurts. Just going to even a small posterior pelvic tilt and even being able to maintain that is going to help them throughout the day. Okay. So again, the best way to get through that posterior pelvic tilt is trying to bring that belly button in to touch the spine, and then squeezing the glutes. Okay. So this would be, we're obviously over exaggerating the movement, but for a patient, even the slightest one will make a world of difference for them. Okay.
He went to all that good stuff, which we can go into later as well. Herniated disc and all that good stuff, and explain why it can cause pain, what is being impinged, the nerves, and all that good stuff. But very good, Sean. I appreciate you, my man. That's how we work off each other. But let's get to exercise real quick in the next video.